Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D show. I'm your host, Bob Walton Spiel, alongside co-host, producer extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, Justice Oshiyoye. He is with DUHTROIT.com. He is an author. He's a publisher. He supports creatives locally in town. We're going to be talking about that. He also owns a couple nonprofits. Straight up Detroit ambassador, hustler. Love the story. You will too. You can find us online, itinthed.com. And do us a favor, give us a like on the socials. Subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Do us a favor too, meetup.com/itinthed. We'll be here third Thursday. We're going to be at the Detroit Shipping Company. Third Thursday, what is it?
Third Thursday, it's the 20th, March 20th.
Is it March 20th already?
March 20th already. Next week. I will be here from 5 o'clock until question mark. No cover, no speakers, just a bunch of IT folks. Hopefully we'll get some recruiters out because we started getting people looking again. So put out your, make some phone calls, get your butts out here. Detroit Shipping Company, March 20th. I almost said April 20th again. March 20th. It's going to be 20th. The post St. Patrick's Day celebrations. Sure. Green
beer half off. If they have, I don't know if they'll have green beer here. But Justice, good to see you, man. How's everything doing?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Appreciate it. I saw your stuff all over Detroit Shipping Company. We saw you by the studio, and I said, like, I was like, I got to find out what the story is. Like, what's like, how do you get from like, there's got to be a starting point. I love a good origin story. Let's start with the name, then let's start with what the vision is. But like DUHTROIT, DUHTROIT, like, how did that come to be? And I guess what was the origin story on that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's pretty cool. So, there's two ways that you can say Detroit. Either you say Detroit or you say Detroit, right? And my thing is like, if I say Detroit, how can I make everybody else say it too? So just make a company that has it titled phonetically. And now,
I say it. I've been saying it both ways my whole life. Is there like, obviously Detroit's proper, or because otherwise you wouldn't have went that route with your brand. But like, where's it like Detroit? Obviously, that feels Detroit Pistons to me.
Yeah. I would fully agree with that.
But is there a line? Do the suburbs say Detroit and the city says Detroit, or is there what?
It depends on who you ask and what side of Detroit you're from, or like if you're from a suburb. Like I'm from a suburb, and I always hear Detroiters say Detroit, and like outside people say Detroit. But then I got here and I made the company called Detroit, and then a lot of people who live in Detroit are like, it's actually Detroit,
right?
You're not from here, you don't know what it is. So it really depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I hear it both ways too. Like way up from where I grew up, everybody says Detroit.
And there's no arguing though. There's not like a American Lafayette where it's like these lines of delineation. Nobody yells at anyone for it. That's the funny thing. I was thinking like Chicago, for example, like you have like when you ever meet someone from Chicago and they say Chicago, and it's like, then they're from Chicago, but then you have the little bit north is Chicago, so like then, but again, they don't argue either. So it's kind of, it's funny. I'm surprised we don't argue about that more.
Yeah. I mean, it's like little pods of people. Like one pod says Detroit, one pod says Detroit. And that's kind of how you can identify like who your people are.
Detroit.
They got those guys all the way over there.
Yeah. Those are, so you put out a book. And my old friend Billy Strotter, you put out a Black magazine, and he like there's you go through some highs, you go through some lows, and putting out publishing is not the most fun thing in the world. You put out I'm not gonna lie, it is a sexy. That's a coffee table. It's considered a magazine, but that is coffee table-esque. It looks fantastic. I guess what was the vision for you saying I want to put a book out? I know you wanted to kind of get some creatives out, but what was the goal? What was the vision?
Yeah, the vision ultimately is to elevate local Detroit creatives, people who are really skilled at their craft, who are really putting in the time.
You talking photographers? Are you talking artists, painters? Are you talking like when you say creatives? Like which are you anywhere, or are you trying to be targeted?
We started off with photographers, but it expanded to all creatives.
Okay,
so it'll be. Creatives could be a business creative or someone who does hair, or it could be a photographer, filmmaker, singer, anything like that. But this edition just focuses on photographers.
Okay. All right. No, love it. I always loved this town. The thing I always loved about it was the hustle. Everyone has I always try to explain, like, this is my side hustle. And then IT and the D is my side hustle. The studio is my second side hustle. I feel like everybody in Detroit, I said Detroit, everybody in Detroit You're gonna has a side hustle, like, and so that's why I feel like, you know, showcasing these photographers, these creatives. I absolutely love the idea of it.
I guess that brings up a question too, though. For these creatives, is it their primary thing, or is it a side hustle for a lot of them as well?
For a couple of them, for maybe 3 or 4 of them, it's their primary thing. For other people, it's either a side hustle or it's a creative outlet. Some people, it's purely a creative outlet. And like, for example, Gerard, who's in the magazine, at Tantrum Fury, he a lot of times he doesn't even want money. He's like, no, I don't want your money. Let me just shoot what I want to shoot and just have fun with that. So each person has their different outlook on what they do for photography, and it produces a different kind of photography. And you can kind of tell when you look at their stuff.
Gerard's out of my heart because I my third, fourth side hustle is DJing. The old Post Bar in Detroit is where I got my start, and I still do some German festivals for my family and everything. Anyway,
many talents.
Old man, yeah, I know. But I always I'd rather DJ for free than you can't tell me what to do. Yeah. So like, I completely appreciate. I'm like, no, we'll pay you. I'm like, no, I'm good.
You want control? I don't want to give it to you.
I don't want you to yell at me. Just let me do my thing. So are these friends of yours? Did you have an audition process? Who makes the cut?
So we had a team for this first edition, and we had someone who curated a lot of the work. So they, scoured Instagram. We did have criteria. And they scoured, and we wanted people who were very diverse in the way that they approach photography and the pictures that they take, whether it's through aerial or portrait or fine art landscape, or just, really cool street photography. We wanted to have a lot of variation such that when someone gets this book, they're able to scroll through and see something different with each photographer.
It looks like, in your hand, it looks like an elevated Our Detroit, which Our Detroit was like, you don't throw those away. It wasn't like an old Sports Illustrated or something. Like, you keep those. Was like the intent, is this were you going to put these? You're not going to put these out monthly. Like, this is like
no. I was probably flagship probably a year, but you were completely on the ball when you said earlier that this is really like a book. Yeah, this could be a weapon. You could hit, you could get somebody with one of these.
Yeah.
So the intention was to create something that was very intentional and high quality. So, and it was exactly to be a coffee table book.
Sure.
We want it to be 9 by 12, so it can't fit in your average bookcase. That's why it's this size. It's this thick because I didn't want to make people feel like they're wasting money for $45. It's priced high. You need to feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Absolutely.
The pages are super duper shiny and incredible because I want to feel like this is an actual photo you could frame right out the book if you wanted to.
Sure.
So it needs to have that premium feel, because you can't showcase someone in a way that's poor. If the art is good and the presentation is poor, then it's a poor product.
Are you giving like the artist stories? Like, are you giving like a call to action, or are you just showcasing their art?
In this edition, it's just showcasing, and that was an intentional decision. When you go through the magazine, what you'll see is a lot of full bleed pages, just really big images. And the reason I did that, we originally, we have some interview, things in there, maybe 2 or 3 per artist. We had like full interviews that we did that were like an hour long.
Oh, okay.
And I went back and I removed most of that information because, I went to Periodicals, which is a cool local magazine store. I looked through a bunch of magazines and I did a lot of reading. And I was like, if I want to make a unique product, it must be unique. And part of that this is photography. Photography is for the eyes. It's not for you to read. You don't read pictures. So why don't I just make a high quality picture book where people understand the artist through their work, and not reading a bunch of bios and a bunch of stuff like that. And so that was an intentional design choice.
It's funny because we had how long ago was Holly on the show? We had a old friend of mine, Holly Owen. She did a book it was a coffee table book called Don't Play Yourself. And it was basically her trials and tribulations of dating. And she would take pictures of street signs, street graffiti, like kind of like the nuances of New Orleans, and put it into like a saying of like, kind of get off the couch, you're better than this, like almost like inspirational book. I almost like, not saying that this is it's a different message. This is more, showcasing artists, but I feel like they're the same, like kind of look and feel. Like hers was like really, you can get it on, I think it's still on Amazon. But it, had that look and feel, had that, that you're going to want to keep this thing.
Oh yeah. And that was the point. It's about legacy.
Yeah.
It's about creating something that will last a long time. There's something you buy, you keep, you look through, you put in a shelf, and then 50 years later, your kids or your kids' kids look at it and they're like, oh wow, what's this?
Yeah.
It needs to last that long.
So not only are you featuring the artists that you have in the magazine itself, but the magazine itself is a work of art. Did you do the layout and typography and things like that? Or is that another artist that contributed to that?
There's a guy named John Sipple. He owns a company called Vulture. He's based out of the Fisher Building. John Sipple. He's incredible. So Gerard helped out with the basic design of the magazine. So he put it in the order of all of the photos. And then I kind of came in, I removed some of the quotes. I kind of, added some stuff, structured some things differently. And then I was like, you know what? We're out of time. We need to send this to print in a week. I called John Sipple, who I got his information from Kenny Karpov, who owns Archive Magazine, which is sold around the city. And John Sipple got on a 1 to 2 or 3 hour Zoom call with me, and he just zhuzhed the thing up, threw in all these little fine details, and he went to work. So our next edition, he's actually going to be retained to design the next one, and it's going to be really cool. But yeah, he really, he put in those really nice finishing touches that you see in here, those little pieces of detail.
Any of the artists in there you want to call out for doing something over the top, or did something that was it really sticks out, or someone that you want to a couple of them that you want to call out?
Actually, yeah. So the first one I would say is Erin McConnell, which is at Erin Images. She in particular has a really solid style of showcasing the emotions of the subject or of her models. When you look at her photography, it's really hard to. I mean, you can always see she has a way of just getting the model to get their personality out in a way that I've never seen anyone do it. I've done some portrait photography. It's not that great, but she does it incredibly. Next would be Jerron. Jerron is at Jerron Whitehorn. He does black and white photography, and he has such a unique way of getting the raw emotion of a photo. I don't know how he does it. I've never seen him really shoot. He just, walks around, but somehow his work just kind of captures a lot of intensity. Mm-hmm. Then you have Gerard, which is at Tantrum Fury. I call his work really surreal and street. When you look at his work, it's just super vivid colors and compositions that it's street, but it's is this even Detroit? Where did you take that? How did you even think to take a photo like that? So it kind of reminds me of Dali, but in photo-esque form. And then you have Justin Ford. He shoots kind of like Vivian Meyer, which is an old school New York style photographer who would just run up on people, take pictures. And if you're trying to get the hustle and bustle of the city of Detroit, mm-hmm. that's your guy. So, there, and then there's also Juliana, which is Juliana Thomas. She has a lot of urban portraiture stuff. So if you had to think of if you're in some kind of weird dream and you're going to look at the photography or if you're in a weird dream, if you're going to look at a landscape, you're probably going to look at one of Juliana's photos and say, okay, that's what I saw in my dream. Because it's very dreamy, very moody. It's it paints a different picture of what Detroit is while it's still being Detroit.
Oh, the Normandy Hotel, I know where that is exactly.
Yeah, so it's cool to see the same images that you're used to, or the same places that you're used to, but showcased in a way that you're not used to it being shown. And then lastly, you have Rio Images or Rio Visuals on Instagram. He's kind of your urban photographer. So if you're trying to get that party scene, that spotlight scene downtown, he has all those photos, and it's really cool just to see that urban vibe that he brings.
Now, where can you said you can find him at the Detroit Public Library.
Yeah.
Where else can you find the book?
Yeah. So it's archived permanently at the Detroit Public Library in the Media, Literature, and Arts section. It's for sale currently. We just added a new location called at Sepia Coffee Project.
Okay.
It was for sale at La Ventana. They sold out, but it's sold at Anthology Coffee, 27th Letter Books, Source Booksellers, Next Chapter Books, Art and Faith Galleria, and I believe that might be it off the top of my head.
Okay. Still a good list.
Yeah.
For getting started. That's that, So are you just pounding the pavement straight hustling? Is that what's going, because I know you've been at the shipping company here for a while now. Are you just out there knocking on doors doing old school, or how are you going about getting the word out?
Yeah, I run up on people.
Yeah.
So if there's each location where we have something, it was handpicked. I saw something in the location. I said, I think that we should have a book there, whether I just like them.
Yeah.
La Ventana, I love that location. It's one of my favorite coffee shops. Anthology Coffee is also one of my favorite coffee shops. Mm-hmm. 27th Letter Books is one of my favorite bookstores, and I love a lot of the other bookstores. They're all seminal locations that have a lot of creative value in the city. And so I wanted to put a book that I want to have a lot of creative value in locations that act almost as like creative hubs. Like Detroit Shipping Company is clearly like a huge creative hub.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to have that mix. And so it was more of a, that's the location I want. What do I have to do to go get it? And then I'd, if I need to run up on somebody, I'd find their information, go there and say, hey, this is what I have. Would you be interested in carrying it? And that was either after we had the product or before.
Okay.
For example, Anthology Coffee, I didn't really have a product, but they believed in the idea just off of the idea. And that was incredible.
What's, do you have an end game? Do you have a goal? Like where you want this to be everywhere, obviously, but what's, when you went out to go do this, did you, do you have a big picture idea of like what you want it to be?
Well, my criteria for success when I first started this was selling probably 30 copies. I was like, if we sell 30, that's massively successful. If the artists are happy with how they're portrayed in the magazine, we're successful. And if the families of the artists are happy with how their relatives were portrayed, I'll be successful. So that was the original criteria. Now I want to kind of roll this out into something larger. So not just this edition, but Detroit as a whole, instead of just like a magazine or publication, I'm expanding it into a creative organization, partially because you can't fund a magazine like this just off of like magazine sales. That's that's running a magazine in Detroit is incredibly difficult. Especially if you'll have to take ads and then it'll feel like you're looking at a TV, but in book form.
You need a staff.
I need a staff. Yeah, I need a staff. I need to, and the next edition will be much higher quality. So yeah, it'll there are going to be a lot of different moving parts. And so part of the creative organization means that we can now do other things under the wing of Detroit, whether it's sourcing creatives, providing photographers or creatives for organizations that need support, being a hub, creating other different types of products, whether it's merchandise or something else, or maybe just doing like installations and galleries, or just marketing, because there's a lot of marketing that went into the addition of this. And that's something that we can add or provide to other organizations as well, that whether it's a creative organization or gallery, where it's like they have the gallery, they have the space, but they may not have the bandwidth or the will to do the marketing side of it. I do.
Sure. But like, you brought up a good point, like advertising, like to do it properly is very unique and very difficult. There's, think about all the things that you've like are watching on YouTube, for example, then all of a sudden, this is brought to you by, like we used to do reads for this podcast. And I knew everybody either fast forwarded or turned it off.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. Like if you're reading this beautiful book and then here's an ad for whatever, you got to be very tactful. You got to be very like,
we were very intentional about that too. Like I had like one or two offers to have ads in the book, I'll give you X amount of money to have a page or like half a page or a quarter page. And I turned them down because this book is about purity. Like when you pick up this book and you flip through it, all you see are pictures, some quotes, and then the occasional name of an artist. That's it.
And I think people pay a premium to know that it's got that, you know what I mean? Like instead of it being a $5 book and then every other page is, God knows what.
Yeah. I mean, it's like having a house with a massive lawn. It's like someone paid money to get that lawn. And they have to mow it.
Yeah.
So when you're paying the money for something that's intentionally simple and intentionally clear. Big pages, but no interference.
Love it. Being a Detroit ambassador, as I like to think I am. We talked about something, and you threw out punches earlier at me, and I don't even think you realize it. And I said, "So you American in Lafayette?" And go. What is American?
American, always and forever.
See now, do you get called? Am I going to be the only one that's called you a blasphemer?
You won't be the first, and you won't be the last, and I will be happy to accept it if that means I can stay American.
I know Ratgate changed things, but I'm a loyalist and I don't care. Like I honestly don't. I'm sure there's, if you've eaten anywhere, I'm sure that, something's gone on in that back kitchen that that we do not want to know about.
Plus, go now while they're under increased scrutiny.
Exactly.
So they're super vigilant
everything
about
will be
everything super clean.
Yeah.
While everybody's watching, and then after a while, then the rats come back. To Lafayette.
I'm fine. I like a little dirty. Like I don't. Did you ever? There's two guys from England. It's called Jolly, the YouTube channel.
I saw that,
They were at and they were like, it feels dirty in here, and I'm like, oh, I like it's like a grit thing. Not a Detroit Lions thing, but like
And that's what the city always was to me. It was like,
see, my surprise to your answer was that you picked one of the two and didn't say, oh, I like Dooley's or something out in the neighborhood, El George's or something like that, that you actually picked one of the two downtown locations.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what I want.
Okay.
I know what I want. I know what I like.
see now, when I went to, this is how I think Americans got the better dog. I think American has the better onion. But I think like the overall like experience, it's a Lafayette thing. So like when I went to Philly and I was talking to like, what was your favorite cheesesteak? And I would go, the bread from here was better. The insides were better on this. And I like the cheese from there. And they're like, that's the perfect answer. So that's what like that's how I would describe it. Like no one's got the perfect, like I like Dooley's as well, but I still think Lafayette's that it's it could be a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
It could be this is what I know thing, but that's all, that's when I grew up, that's all we went to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry that I have to tell you this, but like when you sit in that little corner of American and you got the whole hot dog and you got the experience and people are just walking past you, American is about the experience, dog. It's not just about the hot dog. It's not just about the sauce. It's not just about the like little chili. It's not about the onions. It's about everything. So I feel like I'm like their ambassador now. But like,
that's fair. We used to do a side podcast called Worst Meatball Sandwich Ever.
Really? And
we would read 1-star Yelp reviews of places we liked going, and we did Coney Wars. And I remember Grace from American reached out and said, like, you said everything we wanted to say, because you can't yell at your 1-star Yelp reviewers, but we can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that was a big thing. It was to like, just to call out, like, come on, it's a Coney place. Like, it's one thing to have a preference, another thing to like shit on a business,
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other, so are you big restaurant foodie? Like what else? Are there any other spots you like, this is my joint? Or like what else in town is like, you got your flag in there?
La Ventana used to have these incredible burritos. They changed their supplier because I think the supplier stopped making burritos and they've never been the same. That's an opinion I've never told anyone else. I've just kept it close to my heart. Honest John's for that late night food that's actually still pretty good. Usually you choose late night or you choose good food. Honest John's is like you get the best of both worlds. She-Wolf, if you're going on a nice date, you want to impress somebody with some nice fresh pasta that they make on site. It's not going to get you fat. Well, it will, but it's not going to make you feel like you're getting fat because the portions are small, relatively affordable. Leña for Spanish food. It's got that nice bamboo colored wood in there. That nice really, it's an incredible location. Just got to watch yourself for the unmarked items. Yeah, I went there once, and they had like a steak on the menu. There was no price, and I was like, okay, whatever. The regular thing is $30. This is probably like $7 steak, whatever. Fine. Get the bill. Steak was $130.
Yeah,
I was like, diabolical.
We went to Zuzu for work, and it was market price for the tomahawk. And nobody orders. I don't order a tomahawk, but there was like 12 of us, so like everybody got a bite or two, and then we found I don't even know what it was. I think it was like 160 or something. Like but I'm like, we were there on a Tuesday. I'm like, how do people come here on a Tuesday? Like unless it's like this to me, that's like a birthday. She-Wolf, I was laughing because they had my family always had Jägermeister and Baron Jäger on the table, the honey schnapps, German immigrants, and there's rarely any places in town that have Baron Jäger, one or two. And She-Wolf had it, and I don't know if they made it into a cocktail or something. So I'm like, shots for everything.
Want to know something else about She-Wolf? They have the best bread. And they give you this like nice like cheese spread. The only thing is they don't tell you it's $6. So like when I went there, I was like, okay, this bread is like, can we get something? They're like, yeah, you can get something to go. Don't worry. And then we get the bill. It's like, you charge us for this? I thought the bread was, tell me, it's $6.
See, I only went there once. I went there once after the Kraftwerk concert, the 3D Kraftwerk. And I got to go there. We got to go there and eat because that was, I loved the experience. It was sitting at the bar. It was great, Changing topics real quick, doing the nonprofit thing. We teetered in and out of that when we used to do the job fairs and all that in town. It's a lot, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork. But you launched a couple nonprofits this past year. Data is Detroit and the Crux Foundation. I guess pick one that you want to talk about. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's start about the one that's farther on. They're both like in their relative infancy, but the Crux Foundation is starting to get some teeth. So I have one person on the team. Their name is Pascal Candevu. They do a bunch of great work. So this idea was formed from my history of being an outdoors person, whether it's through rock climbing or mountain biking. And, being a black guy, when you go outdoors, black people cease to exist. And so what you always
I don't mean to laugh,
but
no,
I mean, it's true. But when you go out there, it's hard to integrate because you have people who don't understand your culture, and you have to integrate to the vibe that they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not someone who's already comfortable, which you can tell by the way I talk, if you're not already comfortable being in spaces that are not like you, then it might just not be a hobby that you would just get into in general.
Sure.
And it can be cost prohibitive, because to get into outdoor sports, you either got to have parents who already have all the gear.
Yep.
Got to have friends who have all the gear, or you have to drop like $1,000 to get the nice gear. Otherwise, you can't do outdoor stuff with cheap stuff.
I'm the suburban guy that wears suits every day.
Yeah.
That has the crisp Carhartt, the crisp orange hat, the crisp boots.
Not a single dirt speck on it. No hole.
The crisp
that
gun
North
bag
Face with no
Yes.
crinkle in it.
That is me to a T.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, Pascal really jumped in a lot and does a lot of the work for this and very passionate about it. And so the goal of this organization this nonprofit is to support minorities in outdoor spaces, whether it's racial, gender expression, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status, just minorities broadly defined, to help them integrate into non-minority based spaces, which is outdoors. And that could be water sports, like kayaking, hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing. So we're going to do some initiatives around the city that will support this. So one of them, for example, is going to be a DeQuindercut cleanup that we're planning next month.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're trying to work with the city of Detroit on, where we clean up the DeQuindercut just to kind of get our name out there and support the city. We have 5 sponsors right now,
Okay.
Which is cool. So Detroit Shipping Company is one.
Okay.
Habibi Bowls is another. We've got a couple cool ones on the plate. And Detroit will be supporting this one as well.
I know they have the kayak from the Clinton River, because it goes from literally from Lake St. Clair all the way out to where it goes ends, and it doesn't end in Waterford, but I know it goes far. And
I have no idea.
I know 30 miles. I know there's a kayak thing every year that you can I know it goes through my buddy's backyard, in Clinton Township, but I
never been interested in kayaking, so
I
don't really track it. Yeah,
my center of gravity is on my neck, so the kayaking was not for me. I just know a lot of people enjoy it. But I'm trying to think are you gonna get into skiing, skeet shooting, because I know there's gun clubs up in Oxford, and how far are you gonna go with this?
We're gonna keep it local, and we're gonna keep it to our skill set to start out with.
Okay.
So keep the scope small, so that we can keep the quality high.
Sure.
At the outset before we start to scale out. We're also going to be working with Michigan Outdoors on a couple things tentatively. I don't want to say anything too forward, but we've talked with them a little bit with someone named Jack. But we're going to start off with some rock climbing stuff, probably some outdoor hiking, and then probably a bit of water sports. We're going to be looking.
Can you hike in Detroit with no mountains? I'm just being funny.
Yeah.
It's an old joke of mine.
Yeah. I mean,
you're going walking.
Yeah.
You're not hiking.
But yeah, we'll be partnering with some places. We're going to be gathering some feedback. So we're going to be launching some community-based gathering events. I don't know the location yet. That'll be announced, where we can gather feedback from the local community about what they want to see, so it's that we can provide what's actually wanted and needed.
Sure.
One thing we're looking at is a gear library, a gear rental library, such that if you're a minority who's looking to get into a sport and you don't want to spend $100 on climbing gear, if you've never done it before and you don't even know if you want it, we'll have it here for you to rent.
Okay. Love it.
At an affordable cost or for free.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Carhartt does with their power tool. You can go to a Carhartt place and just rent a power tool in Detroit.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and the more you know.
We had one of the Carhartt guys on the show not too long ago.
Wow.
He's more on the data side, though.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of data, data is Detroit. I did not intend to do that segue, by the way. It just worked out that way. Data is Detroit. Is it what I think it is? Or talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that's a nonprofit, and my professional background currently is in data analytics.
Okay.
At the enterprise level at a big company right now.
Yeah.
And so this organization, I have someone who's with me on that. His name is Umelo Onyejaka. He started DevOps Detroit, which is actually going to have an event here on Thursday in a couple days on 313 Day. Yeah, where he's going to help people with DevOps who are getting into tech.
Yeah.
But Data is Detroit is really about the fundamental goal of this is enhancing the data analytics capacity and capabilities of the city of Detroit. whether by supporting businesses with their ability to analyze and leverage their data, and or increasing the skill set of the people who live in Detroit and giving them or supporting them with achieving those actual, real, hard data analytics skills, certifications, such that they can obtain real jobs supporting businesses in the city of Detroit. So the end goal for this is, we will have cohorts of 3 to 5 new entrants in data, which will help train. We'll make sure that they are certified and they have a minimum level of professional and technical skill. We'll have one qualified business each quarter. We'll pair them up, and under the guidance of a qualified data leader, data person, such as myself or someone else that we'll bring on, the cohorts will support this business with their data analytics needs. And that might be building a little data analytics system, or, helping them to solve some of their business problems by using data. And, obviously the business will be qualified such that they have actual data, at least 3 years of operating history, and they've had systems where, so it'll be, something like that. So the new tech people, they will have like a project to put on a resume that said, I may not have a full-time job, but I've actually done this in the city with a local company, and I live in the city. And hopefully another business in Detroit will say, hey, I like that. Can you come work for me?
We tell that to all the people that are looking for work. Like, don't just say you were looking. Like, start studying for a cert.
Yeah.
Build a Raspberry Pi server in your basement. Do something.
Yeah.
Like, say this is how you filled your time. Like, that's awesome. I love it. And that's one of the things too with AI being like, every day now. Data quality. Data privilege, data management. Those are data security. Those are very much hot topics. We walk in every day and people are like, if you're going to talk data quality with me, I'm going to throw you out. And I'm like, well, you can't do AI. Well, you can do AI, but you're just going to do Copilot and a couple other things. But you really want to do something cool, like we're going to have to talk to you about data quality. So no, that's awesome that you're on the ground floor, like getting people like that was, stuff like that's near and dear to my heart. 'Cause like we did the Career Academy back in the day, trying to get people into help desk gigs and the whole job fair thing. So it's like kind of the cornerstone of what IT in the D is all about. Yeah. So no, it's great.
I mean, this is really about filling a niche. Like there are already a lot of people that help people find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who like support people in tech, but this is really about that little gap of I have some knowledge, need a job, but I don't know the personal project.
Yeah.
This is that personal project, but at an enterprise scale. Not an enterprise scale, but an organization scale that's structured for that
business
exact
scale.
purpose.
Yeah. Are you we'll maybe talk offline, but Aaron Wilkerson runs data in the D. You guys should probably talk. You guys would have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I connected with him on LinkedIn.
Oh, you did?
So yeah, I hit him with the connect request. We're boys now, basically. LinkedIn.
If you're LinkedIn, yeah, I must have 6,000 or whatever. But no, this is good stuff. Find you at DUHTROIT.com, DUHTROIT.com.
Yes.
Justice, I'm not going to spell your last name. I will pronounce it though. Oshiyoye. Yes, sir. We can probably find you on LinkedIn. We'll put a link in our show notes. Just a quick link. Love what you're doing. Love the hustle. I think, this is, for me, this is like quintessential Detroit. I really appreciate you spending time with us. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope we can stay connected as we watch you kick this city's ass. I think you will.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to wrap things up for this show with the IT in the D. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.